Welcome to JasonWhiskyWise. My name is Jason. Welcome to this whiskey review where today, here on the channel, we're going to conclude our little Ardbeg series. And so far we reviewed two new expressions, which have joined the Ardbeg core range. That was the Ardbeg An Oa and the Ardbeg 5-year-old wheat Beastie. God damn, it's been a long day. So far we've reviewed two new expressions that join the core range. And this one, today we're going to be reviewing the Ardbeg 19-year-old, which is known as Traigh Bhan. And this is actually going to be batch number 1. So actually a lot of people don't know there's batches for this, but this is a new expression joining the Ardbeg core range. So with my review style structure, may as well get straight into this one. This one is a 19-year-old whiskey, and it was rather impressive when I first saw this. I think it was last year when they released it, to see a 19-year-old whiskey joining the core range of Ardbeg, because the oldest whiskey before that in the core range was a 10-year-old. So really great to see something back up at that same sort of age statement range in the 19 sort of bracket, 1920, etc. So without further ado, let's carry on. So 19-year-old whiskey, it's bottled at an ABV of 46.2? 46.2, yeah, that's correct. So 46.2. In terms of the cask maturation for this one, it's matured, 85% of it is matured in American oak casks, and the other 15% of this one is matured in Oloroso sherry casks, and the two are married together, and that gives you the Ardbeg 19-year-old Traigh Bhan. Now, in terms of the distillery itself, it is from the Ardbeg Distillery. They are owned by the parent company Louis Vuitton by Hennessy, and they are located on Islay in Scotland. Now, in terms of the price point on this Ardbeg 19-year-old, it's coming in around about £200. And for me, when I saw that price, I know normally 18, 19-year-old whiskies come in, well, 18 to 20-year-old whiskies come in between 180 to sometimes, well, I say 180, £120 sometimes up to 150 at the most. Actually, no, it's about £80 to about 120. But being an Islay whiskey, having a massive following and a massive demand, the £200 price point sounded rather reasonable. In my head, I thought it was going to be about $320, $350, but maybe they would have been shooting themselves in the foot putting it at that price. So 200, I think, is very good on price point. Now, in terms of the name Traigh Bhan, it actually means the singing sands from Gaelic. And in terms of the actual name, it actually is a beach located on Islay. So if any of you are on Islay and you travel and you're visiting the distilleries, you can also go and visit this beach and maybe open a bottle of your Traigh Bhan whilst you're over there as well. Now, in terms of exclusivity, this bottle is not, well, I wouldn't say it's not exclusive, but it is kind of 50-50. The reason behind that, it does join their core range, but it is also limited to batches. So the first batch was released early 2020, I believe, and that one pretty much is sold out everywhere. You're seeing it go on auction for about $280, I think it was, upwards. So it does go for quite a considerable amount more. And they are currently on batch 2, which I think is almost sold out, and batch 3 is on its way. So you are seeing, there are batches of this, and so this one in particular is batch number 1. And if you want to know how to read it on the label, I'll leave a picture up there so you can see exactly on the label, I'll circle it, where it says which batch it is. This one is TB/01. So just off the memory of my head. So this one, actually, if any of you guys are also wondering, this is from a tasting pack from The Perfect Measure. So quite a nice little pack. Got to try lots of different Ardbeg expressions. I think it was about 50 quid. Great value for money. So let's begin by diving straight into the nose of this whiskey and see what notes we can pick up on the nose of this. Into the nose. So to start things out on the nose for the Ardbeg Traigh Bhan, I've got a smile on my face because this whiskey has got so much going on. It is really complex. So first things out on the nose I'm picking out on this one, it just reminds me of, when you bought a pineapple and you said you're going to cut it, you leave it on the dining table, weeks have passed and it has gone past its best, and you can start to smell that sweeter aroma of this pineapple. It's like an overripe pineapple, and then you really got to cut it, otherwise you're going to have to throw it away. So it kind of reminds me of an overripe pineapple. It is accompanied with that citrus, and this is again now oranges, lemons, grapefruits. You've got a combination of different citrus all involved together in this one. Behind that, I'm finding a little bit of what to me reminds me of desiccated coconut, or some people might, coconut shreddings from the inside of the coconut. It just reminds me of that sort of tropical fruit, but dry coconut, so to speak. And there is a greener To me, I'm picking out almost what reminds me of when you go to the shops and you're buying bananas and you buy by accident, you're not looking, you just pick up bananas, put them in a bag, go to checkout, pay, get home, and you're like, these are actually raw. They're not yet ready. So you're going to leave them in some newspaper for a little while to get ready. This reminds me of raw bananas, green bananas. And this is the skins of those green bananas. Behind that, I am picking up a smoke. And the smoke for me on this one is, again, now towards coal. It's like a coal smoke. There is even a mild vanilla-y note. But it's ever so faint on this one. It's not really pronounced and dominant. And it is accompanied with that mineral-y sort of iodine, sea spray character, which really just is rather consistent on all the Ardbegs. There is also that tarry note. The reason why I laugh is because it's actually quite interesting. I'm picking out tar a lot more nowadays on some of these Islay whiskies, but it's almost like a tarry rope. And again, a well-kept tarry rope, it's been kept there for a little while, and it's a mild tarry note. And right on the end of this one, I'm picking out what reminds me of like a green apple. Yeah, definitely a green ripe apple, and you've kind of made it into an apple sauce, but you decided to put it on the stove, warm it up, and you can smell this warm apple sauce, a little bit of sweet spice, cinnamon. I don't know why, I'm also thinking of toasted rosemary. Just when you put rosemary over the barbecue a little bit, when you're cooking a barbecue, and you put rosemary over the top, and it just adds an oomph to the cooking. So that rosemary on the side, applesauce seasoned with a dash of cinnamon powder. Maybe even a little bit of sweet clove as well. Wow, this has got such an amazing nose. So much going on in batch 1. Also, for anyone wondering, I do have batch 2. I've actually got a sample of that one, so fingers crossed I'll have a review of that one soon. But I'd like to know from you guys, what is your favourite Ardbeg expression? Let me know down below in the comment section. And if you have any Ardbegs you'd like me to review as question of the day, please let me know if there's any Ardbegs you'd like me to review on the channel, provided it's not none of those 1974, 1976 special Ardbegs, because at the minute I haven't been able to track down and open one of those in a bar yet, or being able to get one of those. So once I do, I'll try and keep it here on the channel. So without further ado, let's just dive into the nose. I think the tasting notes on the nose have been quite long, so let's launch it into the palate. So first impressions, arrival on the palate for this one. Texture-wise, it does have a medium, I'd say probably more into medium full. It does have a nice silky mouth-coating texture. For me though, that smoke is predominantly, it starts out and you do get a fruity profile. It's like almost smoked fruit, but it's more like smoked lemons. I'm getting what reminds me of as if you had a smoked lemon peel and you're just sort of getting the oils from the lemon peel coming through on that one. Behind that, you're getting the barley sugars, vanilla fudge, so it's associated with a little bit of a sweeter aspect to that vanilla. And then you're getting that heathered honey. So that sweetness does remain rather consistent on the palate. And it's quite mild, where it's not really intense. Behind that then, following from there, you're getting almost like a red licorice. And that's sort of that sea spray is there, but I wouldn't so associate with sea spray. It reminds me of when you go to the shops and you can actually buy seaweed in packs. And this is already dried seaweed with sea salt on the top of it. You just lay it on your tongue and it just almost dissolves into your palate. It's just really interesting. It reminds me of that sort of dried seaweed with a sprinkle of sea salt over the top. And right on the end of that, I'm then getting a bit of polished oak with that smoke then coming back and replaying all those different characters. Rather interesting. I really like the palate. I just wish there was more of that fruitier profile from the nose, but let's see what the finish has in store, and then we'll come to our concluding notes on the Ardbeg 19-year-old Traigh Bhan. So overall opinions on the finish for this whiskey. Finish is lasting quite long. I can feel this little spicy aspect on the sides and the back of the palate. For me, it honestly reminds me of lemon cordial. It's quite powerful, quite strong. And I keep sort of going back and you can feel it sort of sinking in the palate and salivating. For me though, again, flavor profiles on the end of this whiskey, I do get that little bit of an ashy smoke, that little bit of iodine, sea spray, saltiness, a hint of burnt rubber. And for me, it reminds me of a nice dark, rich, well, I say rich Manuka honey, where that sweetness just literally coats the whole palate. Really nice whiskey. For me though, in terms of score on this whiskey, I'm giving this one an 88 points. Reason behind that one. In terms of the whiskey, nose, palate, finish, the nose for me by far is the strongest aspect on this Ardbeg. You've got so much going on, so much of fruitier profiles, where on the palate, that fruity aspect is pretty much just lemon. And then on the finish, it's also just predominantly quite, for me, lemony. So I felt, I wish there was more of those characters I picked up on the nose, that pineapple, picking up on all those different characters reflected onto the palate and the finish, which I think this whiskey lacked. But again, it is batch 1, so fingers crossed batch 2 and batch 3, maybe down the line, you'll see a really good batch. And when I do find that, I'm going to literally buy a couple bottles because the liquid on this one is great. In terms of overall, so is it worth its money? At £200, I'd say yes. It's an Islay whiskey. Nowadays, you're looking at Islay whiskey, you're thinking 19-year-old Islay whiskey from Ardbeg. It pretty much, as soon as it goes online, when you see it on websites, it's sold out. So it doesn't really last very long. So £200 for me on this one, especially batch 1, yes, I think it is worth the £200 marker. Anything more, I think it's a big ask, because nowadays people are just buying stuff to flip when they see batch 1 or first release, which to me is rather sad, because I think a lot more people should appreciate the liquid. But in terms of does it need water, does it need time? For me, this one, yes and no for time. Give it a bit of time, you'll start to see the nose open even further. And does it need water? Personally, I'd say no. Just enjoy this whiskey for how it is. It's not really a superpower. It's not like the Uigeadail or the Corryvreckan, where it's upped in the 50s of ABV. This one's 46.2, so it is quite nice and milder. So for me, 88 points out of 100. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. If you've tried batch 1, batch 2, let me know which is your favorite. And maybe let me also know what's your favorite Ardbeg. But anyway, I'll wrap the video up at that. If you guys have enjoyed, feel free to drop it a thumbs up. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And be sure to check out some other Ardbeg videos, which I'll leave on the screen. But this has been me, JasonWhiskyWise, and I'll catch you all for the next video. Slàinte.